welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in and spending some time this afternoon with us for the 32nd annual meeting of the Lamoille Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dave McAllister. I will be serving as your moderator this afternoon. If we were in person, I would remind you to tip generously to the wait staff, and your moderator never hurts. But in my day job, I'm the executive director of Lamoille Youth and Family Services. I was recruited to the chamber board about 6 months ago, and Josh and Tess made me an offer I couldn't refuse, which included hosting this event and getting to moonlight as a stand-up for about 30 seconds. So thank you all for bearing witness and allowing me to live out my personal dream. As we get started today, I want to again just thank you all for attending. I don't see our keynote yet. Dr. Benjamin Ola Akande from Champlain College, but he's due on a little bit later in our program. So hopefully Dr. Akande will be with us shortly. I think you all will enjoy what he has prepared for us. He's quite a remarkable man and will certainly leave us with some inspiring thoughts this afternoon. I want to thank our sponsors. Union Bank is our main event sponsor this year. Thank you, Union Bank. Our invitation sponsors, Bourne's Energy and Lamoille Youth and Family Services. Thank you for helping us with this event. Our award sponsor is Manufacturing Solutions, Inc. Our friends at MSI always help us with this event, so thank you to them. And our event sponsor, Edward Jones, Rich Jacobs. And Rich is here with us today, so thanks, Rich, for helping to make this event possible. So we'll give everybody a round of applause. So I will now officially, at 2:06 p.m., call the 2021 annual business meeting of the Lamoille Chamber of Commerce to order. And our first order of business is to give thanks and acknowledge and recognize some of our outgoing board members for their service. So first up, Nicole Fournier Grisgraber. I don't know if Nicole's on with us today or not, but Nicole, thank you for your years of service on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Jim Curran, who I'm sure is not on us now, but certainly most of you know was executive director over the United Way for a couple of years. And Jim was really great as a community leader here for us for years. So we wish the best to Jim. Jessica Bonath. I apologize, Jessica, if I butchered that last name. Are you with us today? If not, we want to thank Jessica for her service. Matt Validis from Smuggler's Notch served as our treasurer for several years. We want to thank Matt for his time. Rich Jacobs, who recently departed, along with Matt and Nicole. Rich, again, thank you for all the time that you spent trying to help move the chamber forward. And especially we want to acknowledge our dear friend, Mr. John Mandeville, who has served as our ex officio board member due to his responsibility as the ED of our Lamoille Economic Development Center. And John is leaving us for greener pastures and a well-earned retirement. So John, congratulations to you on retirement, a wonderful career. Thank you for all that you've done for our community in your various roles.
I think I'm being put out to pasture.
Well, John, I don't want to speak for everyone on the call, but I'm sure there's several people here that if you're looking to bolster your volunteer time, could find useful time for you to serve in many, many capacities. So again, thank you to John and all of our outgoing board members for their service. The next point of business here is just to recognize our current list of board members and to take a couple of actions from our membership. So Currently on our committee, we have Josh Smith from Green Mountain Support Services. Josh is our outgoing chair, but if he loses the vote, will be our incoming treasurer. So we want to thank Josh for his time and support. Keith Kohler from MSI. Keith couldn't be with us this afternoon, but Keith's been a great member and contributor to our board. Deb Lindemer. Deb, did I get that right? My pronunciation? Yes. Okay, good. Deb's with us. Ellen Hill, who is new to the role of Executive Director of United Way, which is about 6 months old now, but we keep using that new as much as possible. Amy Olson, and from the Lamphere Memorial Library, there's Amy down there, and Michael Hartman. Most of you know Michael, Executive Director, CEO of Lamoille County Mental Health. And then Pat Ripley, who will be succeeding John as the ED at Economic Development. So Pat will be our new ex officio member. So thank you all for your service. And I would entertain a motion from the floor to elect that current slate of officers, or that current slate of directors to serve for the ensuing year as chamber board members.
I make a motion for the slate
Thank you, Ellen.
for the
Is there
Lamoille
a second?
Chamber of Commerce.
Deb, thank you. All right. So here's the fun part about voting. Okay. We can all wave frantically at the screen. If you agree in the affirmative, I will announce a moment for everybody to stop their signal and then give an opportunity for those who oppose the motion to wave frantically as well. So all of those in favor of approving that current slate of directors to the board for the ensuing year, please wave frantically or make a gesture on your screen. Excellent. Hands down. Is there anyone opposed? Being none, the motion carries and the board of directors slate has been approved. Moving on to the next order of business, we must elect officers. So if nobody has any objection, I will present the nomination committee's appointments and recommendations, and I will ask you to once again move those and vote on those as a slate. So I'll just pause to see if there's any objection to moving that as a slate versus voting on each position individually. I'm not seeing anybody, so we will do this as a slate. So the nomination for the ensuing year would be as chairman, yours truly, David McAllister, vice chairman, Michael Hartman, treasurer, Josh Smith, and secretary, Deb Lindemer. So if I could entertain a motion from the floor to approve that slate for your officers for the ensuing year. Thank you, Ellen.
I make a motion for the slate.
Second.
Great. Thank you, Ellen. Second. Thank you, Amy. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. So all those in favor of approving that slate of officers as presented for the ensuing year, please wave frantically at your screen. Excellent. Hands down. Any opposed? Being none, the motion carries. And congratulations to all of our officers and directors. So now I will move into a much more exciting portion of our annual meeting. And that is to hear from our executive director, Tess, about the year in review. Tess.
Hi, thanks everyone for being here. I'm not nearly as funny as Dave is, but we genuinely appreciate the continued support of our members. We have more than 200 active members currently, and we really feel like the whole community has rallied around us during this last year. Without all of you, we wouldn't be able to continue our mission of being Lamoille Region's leading business organization. Your membership dues go directly towards allowing us to serve our entire community, not just our members. As we all know, 2020 has been a very challenging year for everyone. And that's why the Lamoille Chamber of Commerce, our goal has been dedicated to serving everyone in our community and doing everything we can to help during these challenging times. In the year 2020, the Lamoille Chamber of Commerce saw an increase in membership by 5%. We did offer a 20% pandemic discount to all members, not just new members coming in, but our renewing members as well. We actively supported legislation to help bring financial relief to businesses and individuals. And we collaborated and participated on many boards of directors, community organizations, such as the Lamoille Area Health and Human Services Command Center and the Working Communities Challenge. We continue to assist many businesses and individuals by providing information about community resources and disaster relief funds. We issued weekly newsletter that featured important information such as COVID-19 updates, community resources for businesses and individuals, events, and disaster relief funds. We continue to coordinate with local area organizations and host informative online meetings and workshops. And we also hosted our legislative updates via Zoom so that our members and community could hear updates and have access to their local representatives. With the start of the new year, it brings hope, and there's an end in sight to the challenges that we have all faced. And we just want to say that we are here and we're committed to our community to have fun, interactive marketing campaigns that benefit our members and community, to hold in-person events when it's safe to do so, and to continue to collaborate with other local organizations to bring as much information and resources for the greater common good of all. We are in this together, and the Lamoille Valley is a strong and resilient community and an amazing place to live, work, play, and discover. We are committed to our members and wish you all the best of health and success, and as we continue to navigate through whatever challenges may be on the horizon. I just want to personally thank all of you, who have been involved with us over the last year. We've really enjoyed working with everyone.
Thank you, Tess. We appreciate you and all that you have brought to the chamber in your role, and thank you. All right, next up on the agenda here is our newly elected treasurer, Mr. Josh Smith, who will present to you the proposed annual budget for the 21-22 year.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. And I got to tell you, we've been Zooming now for over a year, and we still get stumbled on. Am I muted or am I not muted? So just recently, I figured out how to share not an entire screen, but a specific thing on the thing. So let me see if this works out all right. So can everybody see that? Is that wait? It's probably loading. There it goes. Can everybody see that? Looks good. All right. So obviously, as the outgoing chair, I gotta give a lot of credit to Tess. She's very humble. Tess basically, I would say, single-handedly with minimal help from some of us board members who were there just to cheer her on. She did a great job in making sure that there has been like literally hundreds and hundreds of chambers that have gone out of business or lost membership during the pandemic. And what Tess has done is been able to have these direct, business to business and reaching out to so many different organizations and businesses to remind them of how the incredible benefit that a local chamber of commerce has. And we are out of all the chambers that are in Vermont, we're the one who's had the most increase in new memberships this past year. So I wanted to first kind of, publicly recognize all the hard work that Tess has done this past year. She's been fantastic on it. And, really because of that, we've not only here, we've actually increased our membership a lot since, during this past year. So I want us to kind of first go over for all of you, just to look at where our 2020 budget was, what our 2020 actuals were, and where we are have our 20. So what we need from all of you, all the membership, is to vote obviously on our 2021 proposed budget. So, and what we'll do for the sake of transparency and all that fun stuff, we'll make sure that you all get a copy of this as well. If we were in person, you would all have this in a packet that we would give you, and you'd be going through this already anyway. And so right here we have, so one of the points is that we wanted to look at is that, as you see, you can see new membership. We actually had new memberships for our 2020 actuals. And so going down towards the bottom, so we're very confident that we're going to be able to keep our new membership numbers high. And you saw our renewals were still very high, so we're still planning on that as well. And going down through some of our you know, where we're getting our income from, our proposed income, and as I said, we went through these. All of these are extremely can happen. So and so we're looking at where we are, you know, where our proposed, you know, gross profit would be around, knocking on 60,000. Our actuals compared to what we budgeted for, keep in mind, but we did cut a lot. We've noticed through COVID, we've noticed there's a lot of things that we thought we needed that we actually really didn't need. You know, one of them is a physical office space. So we still have the same phone number, we still have the same address, but we're not worrying about the issues of having a physical office space. And some of the other things, Tess, what were some of the other things that we were able to kind of trim out of the budget that we didn't really actually find that we needed?
Well, our overhead costs are definitely one thing that we reduced significantly. Our general expenses were much lower over the last year. I'm a bit of a penny pincher, so that's what I do by nature.
Yeah, good. And yeah, and as you can kind of see, like some of our, you know, the expenses are lower based off of the overhead costs as well, across the board for us. And if we, you know, we get down to, you know, towards the bottom, as we're looking at for all of you to vote on, we see that we have, you know, our projected 2020 budget, our actuals, and this is our 2021 proposed budget. Any questions on this? Any of we want to open the floor up for some questions, and if not, we can have the membership vote on our proposed 2021 budget.
Okay, so because Josh is doing a screen share, if you would please use the raise hand feature that you'll find under the.
Looking through here, I don't see any hand raised.
The participant button.
Okay.
At the yet?
Yeah.
Reactions.
Or under reactions, sorry.
Yeah.
You could do it either place, yeah.
I just assumed Jeff had a question because he's all dressed up in a tie. I just thought he was going to ask something. All right. So if there's no questions, then what we'll do is open this up for a vote for the 2021 proposed budget. Does anybody want to make a motion on that?
I'll make
Josh,
a motion that we approve that budget.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Amy. Josh, would you mind stopping your screen share just so we can
There we go.
get a view? There we go. Thank you. All right. So there's a motion and a second on the floor to approve the 21 budget as presented. Is there any further discussion or conversation relating to that budget? Seeing none. All those in favor, wave frantically or make a favorite gesture at the screen. Okay, good. All those hands down. Any opposed? I see none. Okay, the motion has carried. The budget has passed. So thank you all very much. Because we're all being super super efficient. This is one of those benefits of Zoom that we've all discovered here in a year of pandemic. We are still awaiting Dr. Akande's arrival, and he was next on the agenda. So first things first, if I could get a motion from the floor to adjourn our annual business meeting. Thank you, Deb. Is there a second? Thank you, Rich. Okay. All those in favor of adjourning our annual business meeting, make a gesture, wave at the screen. Okay, good. It all carries. So our business meeting has officially ended. So let's move around a little bit, and we'll jump ahead to a highlight of this event every year, which is the recognition and presentation of our Chamber Awards. Once again, brought to you by the folks over at MSI. And Tess, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for some presentations.
Thank you. All right, so first we are going to present our Employee of the Year Award, which was awarded to Jeff Hunsberger of the Lamoille Family Center. Jeff has been tireless as operations lead for the Lamoille Area Health and Human Services Response Command Center, pulling together representatives of every area of service to our community, including food, shelter, mental health and substance misuse, healthcare, and employment. He hears everyone, puts people in touch with the right person, and makes sure our community is cared for. He is incredibly supportive of all team members, and he genuinely cares about not only his clients, but everyone he works with. His passion for serving others shines, and we are so fortunate to have him in Lamoille County. So Jeff, I know you are here. I presented your award plaque to you earlier today. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, do you have an hour? I'm not known for being short-winded. All I want to say is that I appreciate the Chamber's work. I appreciate the recognition. But I also have to say that LOSROC, or the local area Health and Human Services Resource Command Center, has provided a pivotal role in bringing together the health and human services and businesses in our county and our AHS district. And it's been a pleasure to work with the 3 incident commanders, Greg Stefanski and Heather Hobart and Corey Perpal, and the rest of our operations leaders, Sherry Marcelino and Daniel Franklin, our folks that are taking care of our food programs from Capstone Community Action, Eloise Reed, Katie Black. Also want to remember some of the folks who are working on our employment pieces, of which John did inform quite a bit. So I appreciate John's help with that, along with any number of other folks who have helped out. And you know, the work that we've done and been able to do together couldn't be done by one person. It has to be done by a team. And so if you're recognizing me, please remember that you're really recognizing the whole LOSROC team together. There's about 30 people who are involved with this process. Hannah Ansel with the medical side, Elise. There's just so many people to name. So please, if you notice them, if you see them in the community, give them a pat on the back. Everybody deserves that recognition. So thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Very well deserved, and I could not agree more. So we're going to move on to our next award, which is for the Volunteer of the Year, and that was won by Nancy Small. When COVID hit, Nancy was a woman on a mission. She wanted to make sure everyone in our communities had access to masks. She ran a team of volunteer mask sewers like it was a machine, producing and distributing masks everywhere, always with a positive attitude and no judgment. She's an amazing person and rallies people together for the greater common good. This is what serving the community is all about, which is why the Lamoille Chamber of Commerce is pleased to present Nancy with our Volunteer of the Year award. Nancy, are you here in attendance? I'll be presenting her award in person later this week, and I'm not seeing that she logged on, unfortunately, but we definitely wanted to recognize her regardless. So I'll move on to the next award, which is for Business of the Year, which is being presented to Borns Energy. Serving our region for over 70 years, Borns is an amazing local company who always looks out for their customers and community. They give back and are generous supporters of many local nonprofits, both in the form of donations and sponsorships throughout the Lamoille region. Borns strives to provide the greenest and most environmentally friendly fuel options and is a leader in the industry. They are committed to working together to help where they can, and this passion really says a lot about them personally and professionally. Is anyone from Borns in the meeting? All right, I'm not seeing that anyone is in attendance either. I am meeting with Levi Bourne tomorrow to present them with their award plaque in person. And last, but definitely not least, to the Nonprofit of the Year Award, which is being presented to Lamoille Community House. Lamoille Community House pivoted immediately when they had to start serving our homeless population and putting them into shelters. They made sure that people were able to access resources, and they partnered with local businesses to provide that support. They have worked collaboratively with organizations all over the county while still planning for their own organization. Our most vulnerable community members were cared for throughout the pandemic because of the good work of Lamoille Community House. And I know we have the wonderful Kim Anitzberger, the Executive Director, correct, of Lamoille Community House in attendance.
Hi.
Hi, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I'd love to. First, thank you for the recognition and the award. This kind of recognition really fuels our work. We've come from really small beginnings, and we've grown a lot in the last year. So to be recognized like this just feels great. And it really it makes us feel more seen as an organization as well. I think our name is really getting out there, and people know that they can come to us when they need something. Our team has worked tirelessly since the pandemic hit last year, like you said, being in the front lines, being there in person, able to serve the people where they're at the hotels, in shelter, doing outreach, delivering food, doing you name it, referrals, all of that stuff, face to face. And it's been quite the roller coaster. It's been quite busy. And our team has been just amazing and adaptable and flexible. And I'm just really proud of all of them and our organization. Kind of makes me a little emotional, but thank you. I don't know if Corey's our board chair, if she wants to say something too. I don't know, just put her on the spot.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for the recognition. And so we couldn't be prouder of Kim and all of the staff who have just worked tirelessly for the past year. Like you said, not just in watching over the vulnerable population, but also trying to grow our organization. So thank you so much. Great job, Kim, Nicole. You guys are amazing.
Yes. Nicole is quite amazing, by the way. She's like my rock. Just wanted to say that.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to all of our award recipients today. If Tess hasn't already made her way out to present you with your plaques and take advantage of wonderful photo ops, we will be spreading the word all over our website and our communications to give you a little extra recognition for your tremendous effort. And I should note that this is this is turned into an exceptional recognition opportunity every year for tremendous work that is being done in our community, and it is competitive. There are several quality nominations that are being submitted annually for each of those categories. So those of you that have received recognition here today and in the past that should provide an extra layer of pride that you were the cream of the crop for that particular year. So thank you all again for doing what you do. We are going to get started here with Dr. Akande as soon as he logs in. It does 2:45, so I assume that he will be right on schedule. And then at the conclusion of Dr. Akande's speech, we have a handful of just closing remarks and thank yous, and then we'll let everybody get on with their afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. I don't think you can see me, right? Based on what I see on the screen, I'm invisible.
You are invisible. Yes. Although that's a nice sofa set, I have to admit.
Thank you very much.
There you go. There you are.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, sir. We look forward to what you have to share with us. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much. And I have my colleague with me, Liza, and she's going to put up my presentation, and then we'll just sort of take it from there. I want to just spend the few minutes that I have with you this afternoon to talk a little bit about the times that we're at, that we found ourselves, and living and trying to thrive and to be relevant in a post-COVID world. What the COVID crisis did to all of us is that it is an equal opportunity pandemic. It impacted every single one of us, regardless of what profession, regardless of where we are. It was a pandemic that essentially shook us. We underestimated it. We did not expect it. And it was like a left hook in a boxing match. We didn't see it coming. And when it hit us, we found ourselves, dizzy and sort of paralyzed. Essentially, many organizations found themselves on the floor, and they didn't want to get up. They wanted to wait it out to see whether if they can just hang in there for a couple of months. When they finally do get up, maybe they can go back to the way they've always done business. But the reality is that COVID changed a lot of things for us. It challenged us to think about how we can engage each other from a distance. It also convinced us that the way we've always done things doesn't have to continue, that we can try new ways of doing things. It offered an opportunity for all of us to pivot. Pivot used to be the domain of sophisticated organizations that knew how to do it all the time. But now pivot has become a requirement of all of us. Essentially, how do we get better moving forward? How do we stop looking forward to the past? How can we recreate ourselves? And how can we do it not just by ourselves, but in collaboration with others? And so what pivot has done for us is that it has forced us to embrace creativity and innovation like we've never done before. It has also challenged us to start thinking critically about the future. And so I just want to spend a few minutes talking to you guys about my thoughts and what have sort of kept me up over the last year or so, both as president of Champlain College, but most also in terms of my other relationships around the world, in terms of my advisory relationships with organizations and perhaps one or two countries on the continent of Africa. I think the next slide is a slide in which I'm describing a situation where a lot of organizations have found themselves in a state of irrelevance. And let me define that. Irrelevance is when your good days are behind you, where you're making references to how good you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year, but you can't define your goodness in the present tense. You're holding on to the past, And irrelevance essentially occurs when an organization finds himself or herself in a culture of arrogance, that we've always done it this way and we've always been successful. So why do we need to change? We an organization tends to look at itself and sort of have past successes where, sort of experts at what used to work. We have an historical context about what we do. And we were the best, but we were the best back in the day. We're not the best in current tense. And you become irrelevant when an organization develops a deaf ear. Basically, you expect no changes in your customers' behavior. You expect no changes at all. You're going to continue to do the same thing over and over again and hope for better results. And in fact, one of the interesting aspects of organizations that find themselves in the state of irrelevance is that they are in denial about the state of their business or the state of the world. Hope is their strategy. And so they continue to do the old way harder without any plans or any capacity to change. But then how do you audit your relevance? How do you audit the fact that you are relevant? And in the next slide, you'll see that in terms of audit and relevance, I think clearly there are three ways in which you can do it. I think every organization in the post-pandemic world needs to audit themselves. And the way to do that is, first of all, the issue of priority. You need to identify the most important and urgent client issues and opportunities. What are the most important things to your clients, whoever they are, whether it's service, product, whatever, what is, or people, what is the most important and urgent client issues to your client? And that means that you've got to talk to them now. You've got to get back to them. You've got to ask them whether anything has changed in this post-pandemic world. And if it has that impacted their priorities as it relates to your organization? I think every single one of us need to do an audit. And also we need to gauge our effectiveness in terms of how we deliver to our clients. Because what post-COVID has done for us is essentially really changed the delivery mode. How we deliver products, the frequency of it, the way we do it has essentially changed. The other day, I went for a physical, and as part of my physical examination, my doctor sent me to do the blood work. So I was thinking, I've done this before. I just walk into one of those testing organizations, and I hand them the paper, and they send me back to the nurses, and they draw the blood, and they get the urine sample, just the normal things that we always do, But when I got there, I entered the room, there was nobody there. There was a computer in which the computer said, "Welcome," as if he actually knew that I had gotten into the room, and I was startled a little bit, and I walked over, and there it says, "Well, please take out your license and put it at this place." So I took out my driver's license, I put it there. Of course, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then, of course, it scanned my driver's license, and it's scanned my driver's license. It asked me a couple of questions. I put it in, and then the computer said, "Well, thank you, Dr. Akande. And by the way, why don't you step out to your car, and we will text you when we're ready to see you." So I left, went back in my car, sat in my car. And as I was walking to my car, I saw other people in their cars, sort of waiting to be called in. So the new waiting room in America is not in a complex. The new waiting room in America is in your own car. And then shortly afterwards, they sent me a text. I went in, and I went through the process, no problem. And they informed me that they'll send my report to my doctor. And I thought, my gosh, man, everything has changed. This is just just one evidence of that. And then the third area is opportunity to create blue ocean is another form of audit. And let me explain what Chuck Phelps, my longtime friend and colleague, meant by that. Blue ocean is that moment in time when you decide that you're done competing, that you want to create separation between you and the competition, that you want to become a benchmark. And every organization at some point in time has that opportunity to make that decision, whether you want to continue to sort of compete in this red ocean where everybody's at and you're stealing customers from each other and you're stealing, concepts from each other. You want to create a separation that basically says, you know what, I want to be the number one in this industry. And he says that is the moment where you make the investment, when you make the viable choice to do that. And I think when you do this, this audit, it's a very important part to do, because if you don't do it and you become irrelevant, let me suggest to you all this afternoon that irrelevance is worse than death. Because when you become irrelevant, everything that you've invested in, the years of hard work and success just goes away. And you get to watch where it went, who the new competition is, while you're still around. And in a sense, I even coined the term that a lot of organizations now find themselves in a state of organizational auspice. And an organizational auspice is the place we go before we die. And an organizational auspice is, if you want to find evidence of that, so well, Benjamin, how do we know that my organization is now moved into a state of auspice? Well, I want you to think about when you go to an hospice to visit friends and relatives. Something that I did this weekend back here in St. Louis. Longtime friend of mine, Jim, was diagnosed with cancer just a few months ago. And I reached out to Jim just to say, hey, I'm in town. I wanted to just catch up with you. And Jim told me that it was in hospice care. And I sought clarification. I said, Jim, hospice? You? And he said, yeah. He said, Benjamin, it's come to that point. He said the cancer has spread, and they don't think they can do anything for me now just to make me comfortable. So I started thinking about the concept of organizational hospice, where you reach a point when you go to visit somebody in hospice, you don't have a conversation with them about the future. You have a conversation with them about memory, about remembrance, about the things you did together, about the wonderful moments you shared together, the projects that folks thought it was insurmountable that you got done, the funny times that you had. And I believe that a lot of our organizations today in the post-COVID world find themselves in a state of organizational hospice, where they don't have any plans for the future, but they have a lot of plans about talking about their past. And the difference between when we go into hospice as individuals, as humans, and we all know that we are on that highway, versus an organization, is that in the case of an organization, you can get yourself out of hospice. You can fix your situation. You can resolve the matters. You can align your team. You can bring them together to think strategically about the future. And I think that that's what the times that we're in demand. And on my next slide, you will find that I really believe that every single organization needs a strong reentry strategy. What are you going to do post-summer when all the vaccinations are done, people are starting to congregate again, to come together? What are you going to do? I had a very interesting conversation with the owners of the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend. And I was talking to them particularly about how they're going to come back to an environment where they can have people at the stadium. And the first thing they asked me is that, Benjamin, you're still loyal, aren't you? I said, well, don't worry, I'm not a Boston Red Sox. You have nothing to worry about. So we just wanted to make sure what we could test your loyalty there. You have not turned on us, have you? I said, absolutely not. I said, I still bleed cardinal red. And they love that. It was important. And so they were talking about their reentry strategy. How do they go from 0 people in the stands to 80,000 fans? What are the things that they have to pay attention to? Are they going to require vaccinations cards? Are they going to just let people just walk in? What kind of assurances do they need? So my good friend, Bill DeWitt, the owner, and Matt, his general manager, vice president, were lamenting about that challenge, and that they never thought that they would be in that particular condition ever. And so I think when you think about your reentry strategy, you have to think about it in terms of a new normal. What are you going to do differently? What are you going to start doing? What would you need to stop doing? What are some of the things that you never thought you would need to do, but now you've got to embrace? What are the obstacles? How do you engage the most important people you've got, which are your talents, your people, to be part of that conversation, to give them a peace of mind that they're willing to come back? And because now health and safety is a very critical part of the dialogue and conversations we have moving forward. It's important. And so it then brings me to my next slide, which I really believe that when we look at the post-pandemic America, I think the future belongs to organizations who are change ready. And I think we're also going to find that the best opportunities are going to be visible, but not seen. They're not going to be obvious to us. They're going to be those things that we just kind of sort of overlooked for so long. And I think I want people to understand this, that I believe that the future is not a place that we're going. It is not a destination anymore. The future is a place that we have to create. So however you face this challenge means that you've got to have, the capacity to create a new future. And I think that this is the time not to copy people, not to copy somebody's best practice. This is the time when we need to create our own next practice. I mean, something that is pioneering, something that's never been done before. And that if we do this, if we're courageous enough to do this, I think what we will find is that we'll be able to develop the capacity to see around corners. And seeing around corners is a very special thing, guys, because it means you can anticipate what the future brings. You're ready for it, you prepare for it, and you're willing to deal with it. And I think that these are critical questions and attributes that I think that all of us need to start thinking about in a post-COVID America. And then as I wrap up, let me go to my next slide here, where I talk a little bit about the question is that what is your business doing in the midst of COVID-19? How can you do it better? And then how do you make sure that in the midst of all this, that you remain relevant? Let me offer you all just the 5 critical R's on this. And that is my next slide, in which I think, first of all, you've got to have the resolve that you're going to be okay, that you're gonna overcome this. You got to develop resilience. I just call that courage. Courage to try new things, the courage to be ready to make mistakes, and the courage and realizing that before you get courageous, you got to be afraid. That essentially, the prerequisites for courage is being scared. And so it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid, but then you embrace courage to overcome those things. And so you got to develop the capacity to have resilience, the willingness to return stronger and more able and more vigilant than you've ever been, and the ability to reimagine what that future is going to be. And most importantly, the ability to reform, to change yourself. And those are hard things to do, because change is the most difficult process ever, because it really sort of throws us off. We're being asked to do something that we're uncomfortable with, something we've never done before. And I've come to the conclusion that the only person that likes change is a wet baby. All of us here, we don't like change, because change doesn't relieve us. It doesn't make us feel comfortable. So we fight change. We use justification of tradition. We've always done it this way. That the employees wouldn't like it, customers wouldn't like it. So whatever we need to do to try to keep us from changing, well, let me say this to you. I think it's important that we embrace reform. I think it's almost absolutely critical that we embrace reform. And then it comes to my next slide. I think it's also important that you have a cohesive response to the new challenge you face. It can't be just whatever. It's got to be well assessed, well reviewed, articulated, and one that there's a critical buy-in by the majority of your colleagues, and because you need them in order to be able to make that COVID shift. But let me present to you what I would say is you have to deal with in this post-COVID competitive landscape, which is my next slide, and that is in this competitive landscape. You're going to see intense competition, and from people that you've never seen before, and people are not going to be as loyal to you as they used to before COVID, because if they can find somebody else that can do it cheaper, more efficient, and remember their name, they're gone. You're going to face flat markets and very rigid price elasticity, which is going to create margin pressure. What I mean by that is that your profitability is probably going to be challenged because of the intensity of competition that you're going to see there. Your competition is not necessarily going to be local; it's going to be global. And I think also you're going to see the emergence of new innovative offerings, literally showing up overnight. That's going to undercut your market leadership. And it may also erode your market share. But be ready for this emerging competition that is going to have the capacity to move quickly, often blindsiding you, and be ready to be able to undercut you. These are very critical things that you need to pay attention to in this landscape. And so as I bring my presentation to the end, I'm going to take you guys into where I think you are right now. I think prior to the pre-COVID-19, everything was fine. The future was predictable. But what we know now is that the future isn't what it used to be anymore. That the future is not predictable anymore. That in fact, what we are going to have to be more familiar with is uncertainty. There'll be more uncertainty ever before. And so how do we go from where we are to where we want to be? Well, in this particular graph, you will see that we find ourselves in a what I call the eye of the storm, where we have to make a couple of decisions. And the decision is that do we give up and just either go out of business? Do we sell our organization to others that are more agile and more creative than we are? Or do we transform ourselves? Well, I want to believe that transformation is the key to survival in the post-COVID world, and that for us to then be able to create that second curve, and that second curve will be, from a timeline perspective, it could be the next 15, 20, 30 years. We have to do four things. We have to basically intensify our relationship with our customers. We have to embrace new technology. We've got to also try to recruit individuals that can bring us new perspective and new ideas. And then we've got to retinker our business model. Yeah, it worked for the last 10 years. It did fine for the last 15. But in a post-COVID world, we need to think about a new business plan model. I think that's going to be very important for us. And I think if we do all these things, or some of these things, I think we can keep irrelevancy at bay. And so lastly, in the next slide, you see that I want you to ask that question. Do you still matter on those things that matter to your customers? Because if you do, you're going to be relevant. If you do, you're going to keep irrelevance at bay. And that's a measurement that's very, very easy to do. And on the next slide, you will find that I also challenge you that, what do you need as you seek to navigate, this post-COVID world successfully? And how can we, or how can I help you to help meet those needs as co-creators? I think Champlain is ready to embrace the world. We're ready to support Vermont. We're ready to support the businesses of this great state. And we're prepared to be co-creators and to walk that line together in a post-COVID America. And so I'll in my next slide, I'll push up for questions and perspectives from the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akande. So let's, anybody have any particular questions? Thought sites? Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was very interesting and informative. And education happens to be my field. And I'm just wondering if you can share with us, if you will share with us, what is one of the biggest changes that you plan to make at Champlain College, given post-COVID?
Well, good question, Deborah. Let's talk about not just the future, but what we did this year, because we had to pivot. For us, pivot means that we needed to keep our promises to our students, to provide a first-class education experience to our students, and that of which many of them were not here face-to-face. And so what we did is, with the help of one of our star professors, she created a concept called in-space. The concept of in-space is what I would call it is Zoom 2.0. It moves us beyond having these boxes in which we're all looking at each other to where all of us can walk into a classroom and I can see you as you walk into that classroom with me. And Deborah, if you're sitting to my right, I can say to you, good morning, Deborah. And you can say, good morning, Benjamin. And the only people that can hear that conversation is you and I. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, in the course of while we're waiting for the faculty to come in, she comes in and welcomes the class, and we begin a conversation. And I can look around the classroom. I know who's there. I can see where they're sitting in the different parts of the classroom. The dynamic is powerful. But then in the middle of the classroom, in the middle of the course, the professor says, I want to put you guys in groups of 4. And so she creates a box right there. And it says, well, Benjamin, I want you to move into box A. Deborah, you're in box B. Floyd, you're in box C. And Dave, you're in box D. And you go into the different boxes and you have a conversation that neither one of us in any of the boxes can hear, and then convince us to come back again. We did this at Champlain. And these are things that are significant, they are strategic. And so what do we do with it after COVID? How do we make sure that the lessons that we learned during COVID doesn't go away? We call it a flex hybrid concept, which is a combination of face-to-face and virtual. Mm-hmm. We did that at Champlain, and we're very proud of it. And then secondly, I would say that we paid attention to the most important aspect of this pandemic, which is the health and welfare of our students. And that was also significant investments on our part in the millions of dollars. And we thank the state of Vermont for assisting us in that regard. But at the end of the day, we have the lowest infection rate in the state of Vermont, but perhaps in the country, where our students just didn't, with regular weekly testing, monitoring, and then just playing to the rules that we articulated to them. We had a very successful year in that regard. And so as we move forward, we want to make sure that we don't forget the lessons learned and that we embrace the opportunities that may come to us, particularly in terms of how do we extend Champlain College way out beyond Burlington, Vermont. Mm-hmm. And so last week, we signed an articulation agreement with Cape Cod Community College that allows us to be able to offer degree-completion courses in cybersecurity and forensics to their 2-year students, so that they can, 2+2 of sorts, so that they can finish their degrees at Champlain. It's those kind of creative concepts that are going on. That was our pivot moment. And we did it because we had a faculty and staff that were ready and embraced new ideas. They were not willing to live in a state of auspice. They were not willing to look forward to the past, and they positioned us for future success.
Sounds as though that idea of developing relationships differently really played a part in that.
Absolutely. I mean, now we're reaching to Massachusetts, where we're going to have a potential significant number of students. And interesting enough, Deborah, the majority of these students are working adults, and also they're from very diverse backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we're able to embrace diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion in the process of pivoting. That's not too bad.
Great. That's great. Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Akande?
One of the things that strikes me is, Doctor, that in doing what you just described, it was extending out the abilities that existed at the base of Champlain. There's been a lot of innovation, tech-wise, and things out of that college. So, is it more relevant or possibly a better path to take to look at? I think you alluded to this. Whatever you do well, can you do that even better? And is that the kind of place to jump off into the next step, the second curve that you talk of?
You Michael, you characterized that very well, because what we've discovered during the pandemic is that good is not good enough anymore.
Right.
That you better have a strategy to go from success to significance. That you better be striving for greatness, or otherwise they're going to take your market share from you. They're going to steal your students from you. They're going to put you on the path of irrelevance. And I think that whoever's come, what the pandemic did was basically made us very uncomfortable. If we were comfortable before, we're not comfortable anymore. And now we're very clear in terms of what we need to do to be able to go from success to significance, because going from success to significance is one of the most difficult things for organizations to do, because it means you have to recreate, you have to reassess who you are, you have to maybe even put in a very different business plan, and that's what we're doing right now. We got this Champlain 2030 plan that is laying out a very bold strategy for the future of the college. And I mean, it's not Benjamin Akande's strategic plan. It is the college's strategic plan, because we ensured that everybody was at the table, to first of all, help us to have a collective process of ideas, to be able to prioritize those ideas, to align those ideas with our competitive advantage. Because it's essentially every single one of us, every single organization has a competitive advantage. As an economist, I like to define competitive advantage as what you do that nobody could do better. And so if we focus on that competitive advantage, you can pivot from that point. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now with Ann DeMar, sort of taking the process and making sure that we identify our goals, our objectives, how we're going to articulate it, what it's going to cost us, and how does it make Champlain stronger. I think every single organization in America needs to have that process in place over the next couple of months.
Yeah. What timeline do you see that you've done from the beginning of recognizing this to being at the point you're at now?
Our timeline was probably 9 months. We kicked it off in June, and we anticipate that the report will be in front of the board at the June board meeting. Michael, we embraced an urgency that I call competitive. That I called it is having an urgency of constructive impatience. We were not going to wait. We were not going to sit around. We were going to have that sense of urgency Because what the COVID has taught us is that when we wait, and when we wait, that so many things happen. And so that urgency is now going to propel us to be able to make good decisions and to position the institution for future success. And I'm very honored and privileged that I got a chance to play a part in that.
Thank you. Other questions for Akande? Okay, Floyd.
Yeah, this is more of a comment. You've just changed the agenda for my leadership team meetings going forward, I think. Because I think, one of the things that's happened we're in human services, we're a nonprofit, and we deliver direct services to people in their homes. And what's happened is that some folks who've been doing the same job for 25 years, suddenly we're doing it very differently and finding very different outcomes. In fact, having more success, having virtual meetings with some of these families than they were having before. And I think that's how that impacts human services in general, I think is going to be very interesting. I wonder about Michael's folks, in the virtual mental health world, and how that's going to change that business forever. One of the things that the staff has been talking about is that they're going to actually try to gauge, and we don't have an instrument for doing it yet, but which families would benefit most from virtual as opposed to in person. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where that test exists. I don't think it does, but I think it's going to be an interesting challenge.
And Floyd, that survey that I spoke about earlier, in which you're touching base with your customers and asking them what has changed and how can we best serve you. I think that survey would help, because you would in conversations with the families that have kids that are probably between the ages of from 1 to maybe 19 or 20. It's what I call the iPod generation. They're internet savvy, they're phone addicted, they're opportunistic, they're digital natives, and iPod, and I call them iPoders. And these folks were raised on Wi-Fi. And so they've been operating in that space anyway. And so they want to be engaged that way. I've got 3 daughters, 28, 26, and 20. And oftentimes I sense that they prefer texting me than actually talking to me on the phone. And I would call them, and then they would text me back and say, "Dad, what do you want?" And I would say, well, guys, I really want to talk to you. And they said, "We're good. What are you doing? What are your mom doing?" I said, "Well, yeah, I want to talk, And so I said, "Can you FaceTime me, or you want to Zoom?" And so for them, it's just normal business. They don't see anything wrong with it. And then I had to learn a new language. I had to learn a new language in terms of this abbreviated, concepts that just goes beyond LOLs, to be able to really understand what these kids were telling me, and which ones were funny and which ones they were just telling me that I didn't know what I was talking about. I remember the first time I got a WTH from one of my kids, and I accused her of not spelling right. And she said that I'm trying to tell you something. And of course, and you got to be able to understand that this is a generation that want to be engaged in different ways. This is our opportunity. They've been telling us for a long time, we ignored them, but now as we're trying to engage them, we got to go where they live, and where they live right now is a very, very different world that is than where we live. Now they've left Facebook for us adults. They don't go there anymore. Facebook was invaded by adults. And immediately the kids left town and said, "You know what, Mom and Dad, you can have your Facebook." And so they moved on to other forms of engagement. And the only people you see on Facebook now is mom and dads and uncles, and they think they really found a way to communicate, but the kids aren't there anymore. They, they moved on. But I definitely force my kids to get on LinkedIn from a professional perspective. I said, guys, look, I need you all to be very professionally prepared. So I got them on LinkedIn when they were in high school. And now they've seen, now that they're out of college and working, they've seen the value of, of being in that space. But to answer your question, I think, checking in with the customers and asking them those very cogent questions is how you would know the best way to engage them.
Thank you.
So, Doctor, one other question I was wondering about is, in our field, as Floyd was saying, mental health, we in 2 weeks went virtual, and it's gone really well. Identifying, as Floyd was also saying, that some people, the virtual medium really works, and for some people, it doesn't work very well, and for some people, it might work some of the time. But we also know that we don't see 70% of people who have some kind of mental health or substance use problem in their life. And so one of the things I'm wondering about is if you came across a way, a formula, or something to look at who is the customer that you haven't reached yet? Who's that potential customer that this new period may allow us to have some access to?
It's a good point, Michael, and we've been struggling with that same question, and that's why we decided to collaborate with Harvard and Massachusetts General on a process of being able to identify, to be able to cultivate, and to be able to find a way to identify those areas where the people that need our help. And again, this is a time for pivot. This is a time for creativity.
Yeah.
A chance to be able to question the way we do business and the way we engage our clients. And so, Michael, I think rather than looking for best practices, I think this is an opportunity to actually create your next practice, something that is creative, innovative enough, and challenging your team to come to the table with ideas. This is the chance to do that. I think these are wonderful opportunities for us.
Any other additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Dr. Akande, thank you very much for taking some time out today to speak with us. I was judging by some of the expressions throughout the presentation that people were as impressed as I was with what you had to say, your outlook. I found it to be incredibly insightful. And I have a new layer of pride as an MBA student at Champlain. So thank you for all you're doing for that institution, but for the broader community of Vermont. We're proud to have you here and glad that you chose our state to come and be a leader in. So thank you again. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, folks. I appreciate you guys. Stay healthy and stay negative. Don't test positive anytime soon. So let's be careful.
Good to know. And Dr. Akande, we'll send you a little swag bag of some goodies or something, because normally if you were in person with us, we'd have a gift for our keynote. So we'll put together something from our local businesses and send you a little care package for taking time this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Excellent. Tess, well done. What a great recruit for our keynote. That was amazing.
Thank you. I thought it was very fitting.
Outstanding. What an absolute asset to our community. So I guess just as we try to wrap things up here and end a little bit early, I want to just once again congratulate all of our award recipients today for your exceptional service and outstanding opportunity here for acknowledgement. So thanks again. Keep up the good work, and continue to spread not only your positive message in your efforts, but think about, for next year, those around you that certainly are showing the right stuff, and submit one of those nominations for next year's event. Once again, just thank our sponsors, Union Bank, Airway Youth and Family Services, Bourne's Energy, MSI, Rich Jacobs. Thanks again for helping us out, making this event possible. We appreciate that. I want to thank all of you for once again coming and spending some time this afternoon with us and being active chamber meetings. We do hope to have this in person next year, at which point, if I'm required to stall, maybe the hokey pokey would be appropriate. I'm not sure yet, but I will have something up my sleeve and in my back pocket for all of you that will be entertaining and riveting. And I just want to let you know to look forward to it. We are currently working on a membership survey off of what Dr. Akande was speaking about. We recognize that this is an incredible opportunity for us as a chamber to really kind of restate what our purpose and our intent is. And I think we're all committed that our purpose and intent is about serving our membership. And so we're going to reach out to all of those stakeholders and figure out what is the best way to do that. What is it that their local businesses are looking for post COVID-19? And I think that was just such a timely presentation to not only help each of us on this call, but to kind of inspire our board in the direction that we're headed. We're also hoping to introduce some new fundraisers this year. For all you golfers out there, we are eagerly planning a golf tournament up at one of our new members, Copley Country Club. So that will be coming this fall. We also are looking at potentially like a walk or run or bike or some combination of physical activity and outlet to take advantage of our beautiful rail trail here in Vermont. And then finally, we are hoping to get back to some in-person activities and events this fall, mixers and social gatherings, allowing each of us an opportunity to network the old-fashioned way. And I hope that you all will be able to join us for some of those as we proceed. So in closing, I just want to once again thank Tess. She is an exceptional talent and a tremendous asset, not only to the chamber, but to our community. She's a heck of a leader, and I'm really excited about working with her over the next year and, realizing the potential that she has, and is doing so many things to benefit so many of our organizations in her role. So Tess, thank you very much once again. So without further ado, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Thank you all for attending. Godspeed, be well, be safe out there, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.